And I think I am live. Hi, Jamie. All right. I think that has got everything. Let me adjust my window here just a tiny bit. There we go. Hi, Marianne. There's Shirley, Miss Louise, and Debbie. You came yesterday, Shirley? Yay. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and play the intro, and we will get started. And a quick shout out to Naomi over at EJ Fun Prints. Thank you for being a channel supporter. We greatly appreciate you over there, Naomi. And we are going to be working on some embossing. This is going to wrap up our embossing techniques, and I'm sure there's more techniques than what I've covered, but we're going to move on into doing some inks and things like that. On Wednesday, I am doing, not a technique, but we are doing a box, and I had a previous appointment, and I'm not going to be able to go live on Wednesday, but I have recorded a video for you guys and gotten a file together, and we're going to be releasing that on Wednesday morning. So if you are not a Ko-fi or Patreon supporter or Cutie collector or higher on YouTube, to get that file, you can support one time or on Ko-fi and on Wednesday morning and get that file, or you can be a monthly and get that file and all of the rest of my files. And I thank all of my supporters and, as always, my moderators. You guys are awesome. So here is the file for tonight, and I just put together a card file. This is just a basic card file, guys, and some shapes and stuff in it. It's what we're going to do with those shapes that's going to be your main attraction on this file. This piece here is your stencil piece, and I created this stencil piece from a Cricut Design Space image, and I welded and contoured and got rid of some pieces on there, but this is the original. If you want to go get it and undo what I did, you can do that. In that file, this looks like it is together. Yeah, it's together. I just broke mine. Well, maybe not. It looks like it has a little bit of a cut line there, but mine works fine. If you want to just go in and just weld you a teeny tiny circle right here on this one and this one and this one. These three, you can. The rest are all connected. They were not connected in the original. That was not my doing. That was the way that this image was designed. And I doctored it up best I could. But you can use any image to make your stencil. You missed the intro, Sue, but you can dance. Dance like nobody's watching. Hey, Dolores. Happy Monday. So, when you're creating a stencil, guys, if you want to create one from any shapes, all you're going to need is a shape. And it doesn't matter if you want to do round, circle, square, whatever works for your image. But you can come in and go, I'm just going to go with flowers because that's what we got in here. You want to make sure your lines are connected, like this one. You can insert that image, and I'm not going to save this in there, guys, because this is a file for my supporters. I'm going to ungroup it. You want something that's going to have your pieces stay in the center. So if I were to do this one and I were to slice it out, you can see what's going to happen. All of these pieces are going to go away. Okay, so you really want to make sure that you pick something that's going to keep these. You need a positive, a negative, and not a positive, like this one. Okay, this is the type you need. You need all of the holes out and everything connected. So you could actually use this for a stencil, but you're going to need some way of connecting it. You could actually, I think on this one, contour out the square. And now there's a way of doing it, and I've already forgotten how to do it. Let's see. Align, center, and oh, I know what I'm doing. Duh. If you've got one like this where when you do that and all the pieces are loose, come in here and get a circle, okay, or a square. It doesn't matter, circle or square, whatever you want to get. I'm going to align. I'm going to arrange, move that to the back. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm just going to make it right about the same size as my little flower here. I'm going to arrange. That looks like it'll work. So I'm going to bring these two circles together. I'm going to align them, center them, and slice, because all I want is a ring. Get rid of all of that. Then I'm just going to bring this in, and I just want it to touch in a couple of places. I don't want to mess up my stencil area. So what I'm going to do here is then go in and get a shape, get a square, make it teeny tiny because I don't want a lot to touch up when I go to touch up if I need to. And I'm just going to duplicate that. And of course you're going to make them small enough that they don't run outside. But you just want something to hold it in place. Okay? That's all you want to do is just hold it into place, and then you can make that a stencil. And of course you want to make it a little bit bigger than that so it doesn't break. But you're just going to weld that in. And now that piece, and you'll probably on this one do this one here and one over here. And that way you can stencil this, and then you can go in and just clean up that line. Now, if you want to have a square background, use a square and not a circle. Okay? But basically all you want to do is a frame so that you have this. If you're stenciling like we're about to, or you're going to have your embossing powders, or if you're going to be inking. I remember how to do that now. I'm going to slice it, and I've got just a little bit of that outside edge there because you won't have it if you center it up. You won't have those little pieces. We're going to pretend those aren't there. And then you're going to get your same frame. You're just going to do a frame and bring those in. I've still got a square. I'm so used to getting squares instead of circles. Duplicate, make one smaller. And it doesn't matter how small. If you want, it depends on how much edge you want to hold when you're doing your stencils. There we go. Just going to make that a little bit bigger. And we're going to pretend that that little piece is not out there and weld. And now you've got a stencil of your flower. But you've still got all these small pieces, so you have to do those bridges if you want to keep those in there. That's just not really a good example for making a stencil except doing it this way. You want a solid image that you can slice and it doesn't have pieces. This one had pieces, but I went in and welded so that they would stay intact for you on there. My brain doesn't like to work in reverse, in case you haven't noticed. So, and we're covering this because somebody asked me about stencils last week. I don't know if you're here this week, but that's why we're doing stencils with our embossing. All right, so let's move over to the overhead and take a peek. Yay! There we are. So here are some of the things that I've been working on with embossing. And this is layered embossing, where you use more than one color of embossing powder. And you're never going to have embellishments where you have two alike, okay? All of your cards will be different. And if you're into mixed media, I'm not going to do this one because my camera won't go up high enough for you guys to see it. But if you're into mixed media, I will cover how to do this kind of thing for scrapbook pages, things like that. It's a little heavy for cards because you're going to use cereal board or cereal box for doing that, or your inserts from your cards. So the way that you're going to do these, you're going to be layering like we're layering tonight. Let me adjust this camera, guys. It's a little bit out. There we go. So what you're going to do is, for this you need a hot plate or a griddle or something like that, okay? And you're also going to need like a rubber stamp, okay? I hope that that's showing up, but this is like music notes. And it's stamped into this embossing powder. But the way that you do these, and I've got a couple of pieces over here, is you cut your shapes from your cereal box. This happens to be the backing from Cricut cardstock, the back piece. You're going to cut those. And what you're going to do from there is you're going to ink it up with your Versamark ink. Okay? And once you ink it up with your Versamark, which I have here somewhere, there it is, you're going to just ink it and cover it completely. Okay? Then you're going to dip it or cover it with your extra thick embossing powder. Okay? And you're just going to let it sit on that griddle. I can't really show you guys, but what I've done on my griddle is I have taken a full sheet of Teflon paper and put that on top of my griddle. It's still a little bit high. There we go. You're going to put this on your griddle. Then you're going to take a smaller piece like this one and put it on there. Okay, and then this goes on there. And you want to turn your griddle or your hot plate on to about 300 degrees, 275, 300. And then you'll cover it with a pot lid. And I have one that has a steam hole in it. Doesn't matter. With or without, doesn't matter. And you're just going to set that on your griddle. So you've got a full sheet of your Teflon paper so that you don't get any on your griddle, because if you're going to cook on it later, you don't want to have embossing powder on it. If you have a small hot plate, you can just use that and probably get by with one. But you're going to be taking this off, so you need that extra sheet. And so after that gets good and melted, then you can go in and you can sprinkle on. Actually, what I do, instead of sprinkling on top of mine while it's melting, I actually put another sheet on my griddle. And I sprinkle different colors of embossing powder in different places on there. Then I let it melt and I take it off. When I take it off and it hardens up, then you can break it into pieces. I drop those broken pieces onto, now I've lost it. I just drop those broken pieces like I did white and I did the pink here, and I did my gold. Okay, I did, and let's see, these three. And I just did little puddles and let them melt. Then I pulled that sheet off and let it cool because I have two sheets like this. And then I broke those into pieces and I dropped those pieces on here and let them melt. Then I removed this entire thing, just like you see it here. You'll remove the whole thing, and if it's messy and it gets around on the outside, don't worry about it. Remove it. And then you're immediately going to stamp it with your stamp. Flip it over, take your Teflon sheet off, and then peel this as it cools off of your embossing folder. You can do it with embossing folders too, or your rubber stamp. Okay? So, and then you're going to get that impression on there and all of the colors, and they will mix and meld. You don't want to just throw the colors on there without the thick clear, because they won't meld and mix, because you can also take a pick and go through and drag your colors and mix them up as well while it's on that griddle or hot plate, whichever one you want to use. But we will do a whole video on that. I will do a video on doing these that is not live, because I can use a different camera and I can get everything in that camera for you guys. Okay? So that's why we're not going to go into that completely tonight. But we are going to do some steps of it so that you can see how to layer up. Hi, Pat. I don't know, Pat, but we're going to try it tonight. I have a stamp here, and we're going to try it. We're going to see if it'll work. Oh, this is what's coming on Wednesday, guys, in case some of you haven't seen it. Onesie packaging, so that you can package up your onesies for sale, for keepsake boxes for them to put in their little hope chests, things like that for those special onesies. So that's coming on Wednesday. I did mention that earlier. So let's go ahead and start playing with some of our embossing powders. And I have my heat gun and all that all set up here. I have this Totally Tiffany stand. We're going to start with this. Now this is how you're going to get your textures. You can see all that texture popping up on that camera. That's how you're going to get all of that texture. And this is using the thick embossing powders and the extra fines. Okay? But we're going to make these card panels. I just feel like you guys can't see. That's better. There we go. I don't know how my camera got moved. So I'm going to move that out of the way. But we're going to do a couple of different techniques. I'm going to start with this, I guess, red. Can anybody tell me what this stencil material is? You're going to be surprised. Cricut Joy Smart. Ta-da. So don't throw away your papers from your smart labels, from your Cricut rolls of vinyl. I cut this on the plastic more setting, plastic packaging with more, and it cut just fine. Okay? Super, super fun and easy. So I'm just going to go ahead and clamp this so it doesn't move. And I don't usually, you can tape your stencil down where you want it. I'm just going to put it kind of here in the middle of my cardstock because I cut my panel to 5 by 7. Now in the file it is not cut as a 5 by 7, but you can cut your panel as a 5 by 7 and then trim it down to 4.25 by 6.25 and get the same look that I got here. Okay, so that's what I did. But I'm just going to let that sit right there. I think I'll bring it down just a little bit because I want to give myself room to do sentiments and stuff like that. Now, I do have two. This is my Versamark pad, and then I have another pad that is a Ranger, the big one, with the same watermark ink. And when I'm doing layering and stuff, you can see my pad gets dirty. I only use this pad for that. So make sure you have a separate pad if you're going to be doing some of the things that you see me do. Okay? You don't want embossing powder in your good pad. So I'm just going to hold my stencil and I'm just going to stamp right over my stencil and get pretty good coverage. Just kind of blotting. Trying not to move it too much. And then I'm just going to set that to the side and remove my stencil. And you can see I didn't quite get in those lines really good. Not a big deal. I'm going to take my embossing pen and I've got enough on there, and I'm just going to fill it in. And if you're doing a textured filled in, sometimes you may not want it filled in. You may want it to be a little different and spotty. So then I'm just going to get I think I'll do silver on this one. That way I'll have one silver and gold. I'm just going to sprinkle my silver right on it. Not worried about dusting it with my embossing bag because I don't care if any of it sticks. Now, if you don't want, like this right here, if you don't want that on there, you'll have to brush it off, use your embossing buddy, and not get it on there. But I want a little bit of extra in there. I'm just moving it around. I don't care that it's on there because I'm going to be sprinkling some more on there anyway at the end here. So I'm just going to heat this. Just going to heat it up and get that going. Okay, now we've got that embossed, and you can see I've got this messy around it, and that's okay, because we're not done. I'm just going to lay that on there, and I'm going to get my Versamark pad again. We're just going to lay this flat. And now we're just going to go through, and we're going to stamp in different places, and I do want my ink heavier in other spots. I apologize, somebody rang my doorbell. Now my dogs are going nuts. So we're just going to stamp it up, heavier in some spots than others, to get this textured look. Now I'm using the thick embossing powder. Okay, this is the thick clear, ultra thick. I'm just covering it up, and then we're just going to dump it right back in here. Set that to the side. Now we're going to heat this, and I'm not going to clip this because that clip is really, really, really big. So I'm just going to kind of hold it and heat in different places. Oh, Marianne, I got this stand at Hobby Lobby. I do have a link I will give you guys so that you know what it looks like for Amazon, but I think they like have one. And if you get it from Hobby Lobby, you can use your 40% off coupon and you can get it for under 20 bucks. So we're just melting this ultra thick. You want to get it good and melted. And it's going to bead up and kind of look like water spots, giving you that texture. Okay, we're just going to give that a second to cool. I got a little, if I don't drop it. Trying to brush powder out of the way. Okay, so now we have that texture. It's nice and cool. Okay, but I want to take that a step further. So, because I forgot to do it, before you heat it, sprinkle some of your other color on there, just so it'll stick. I have a little spatula. There it is. I'm just going to heat it up in some places to get it good and sticky. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to add a little bit more of the thick to it. I want a little bit more. So I'm just going to do a little bit of ink over the top of it. And you can do it this way instead of putting it on your sheet if you want as well. I find that sometimes the container is easier, sometimes the sheet is easier. Just depends on what you're doing. Okay, that looks good. And you can see it's all sporadic on there. Nothing. And I'm just going to drip some of the silver over that. You could do any colors that you want. I mean, just very, very little, just to make it kind of sparkle. And then we're just going to heat it again. I'll bring it up here so you guys can see it. Okay, now here's where we're going to do a little bit of magic on here, I hope, maybe. If you want to do, I lost my stamp and I bet it's too late. There it is. It may be too late for that one. It was too late, but that's okay. You have to be quick because it's going to cool off quick, but you can stamp in it. I just didn't get it on there. We'll do one where I do get it. How cool is that? So that is one technique. And then you can just trim this up. And again, that's going to give you all those textures. Different feels to your cards. So we have that one. Next, let's try to do some of the thick. Now this is a piece of cardstock. Yes, Pat, you can. Heat it from underneath too. You can, but you can heat it up again and do it. Okay. Smaller areas are easier to stamp because it's not, you'll have time. You want to make sure you have everything lined up, and that's what we're doing right here. We're going to try and do this one. But this little piece of cardstock I had, okay, and it's in like a 4x6 paper stack. And I just wanted to add this little thinking of you right here on this corner. But I wanted it to stand out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything ready here. Make sure I don't have any extra powder on that. I keep losing myself. There we are. I'm just going to take and kind of make like a little puddle of ink. And it doesn't have to be solid. It can be sporadic. That's fine. Then I'm going to put my powder right over that. And I hope you guys can see that on the light. That's why I went with the red so you could see it. But it's all sporadic on there. It's nothing that's perfect and straight in line like a perfect square. Now I'm going to take a pigment ink and I'm going to stamp up my stamp. And I hope that the acrylics work. I haven't tried the acrylics, guys. I haven't. So I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we're going to try it. I know the red rubber stamps do work. Just cleaning up some of this ink because I don't want it to end up in the powder. So I'm just going to set that to the side real quick. Now we're going to heat this. And as soon as it's finished, we're going to stamp that into the puddle. And yes, it did imprint it right in there. So not only do I have my puddle, I wish you guys could see this better, but you can see that puddle. It's down in there. Okay. Now I am going to set it again. And let it cool. And it should not smear, I hope. Perfect. So you can do that. Now you can stamp under it too, but it's not going to give you that indentation of your stamp. So that is another technique that you guys can use, and I will clean that after. I'm just going to set it so I don't get ink into everything. Next is the fun part, layering your embossing powders for your embellishments. Yeah, the stamp is fine. It's not that warm. It cools really fast. Where's my stamp pad? Stamp should be fine. Didn't do anything to it at all. Like I said, you can use embossing folders too. You can take the embossing folders and you have to be quick. Just open up that folder and smush it right on there, okay? So there are so many different things that you can do with these. I'm just going to brush some of this out of my way for this next one. So that's how you use the thick embossing powders that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago. You can use them for all sorts of things, guys. When you want texture or you want that heavier coverage, that thick is awesome. And I'm going to need my tweezers for this part. Oh, there we go. So let's start with a butterfly. Now you can use craft paper, you can use white paper. I've done both. The backs will get messy, so if you're going to use the white and that bothers you, cut a second one. And I will tell you right now, you have to cut the antennas off because they're not going to last through all of that. When you cover it, and it may shrink up a little bit from the plastic of the embossing, okay? So make sure you cut a second one if it bothers you so that you can cover the back of your embellishment, but if it doesn't bother you, there's no need. So I'm just going to grab a Post-it note. I'm just going to grab my little butterfly here. I'm going to open up my Versamark ink, and I am going to not bend it, but we're going to press them down on there. And that's just to keep our fingers clean from the sticky ink. Make sure we get good coverage. You want to make sure your butterfly is good and covered. There we go. And I think I'm going to grab him right there. You just want to grab your butterfly in a spot that's going to be inconspicuous, but you can cover it up later if it doesn't get coverage. So don't sweat it. I have been in embossing crazy, so I was out of filters. There we go. So next I'm going to take, and I'm using the embossing powder called Cotton Candy. It's by Ranger. This is a speckled or mixed embossing powder. You can mix other colors, but they do have some. They've got one that's called 101. It's black and white, you know, like the Dalmatians. They also have some called, oh, I forgot. I just saw them today too. But they have several of the mix, the speckles, and several different ones. And that's going to give you some really pretty looks. But I'm just going to sprinkle this on. And I want to get it kind of heavy. And make sure that I've got plenty of the specks and stuff in there. And if you don't, it's okay. You can pick them up and put them on while you're heating. So I'm just going to slide this out of the way. I'm going to keep some that I can scoop up as I'm heating it. And we're just going to heat this guy up. And I did get a good amount of speckle in there, so I didn't have to sprinkle any on. But you can tap it again with your Versamark ink, or you can, while it's on your board, if you've got, I like to put my Teflon sheet on my board with this and then sprinkle it. That way I don't mess up my board. But I've got plenty of the color. And this got glitter and everything else in it. Really, really pretty. But I want to take it up another notch. So I'm just going to set my pink to the side. And I'm going to bring in my gold. Okay. And where's my Versamark? Now this is the tricky part. You only want to get your ink where you want the gold, okay? So, and if you're wanting it to be perfect and in line and stuff like that, there are ways that you can do that. And I'm going to show you with the flower that we're going to do next, a way to do that. But with this one, I'm just going to be a little crazy and not care that it's got straight lines or anything like that on it. I want it to get that mixed media feel, okay? So I'm just going to take my gold and I sprinkle that right on there where I tapped it with the marker. Oh, I may clean it up a little bit. That's a little heavy. I'm just going to tap it off. Now I don't have a whole lot of pink showing up here because I got too much ink on there. So I am going to take, I have a little bitty fine brush that I get, that I use this all the time for everything. This is an angular brush. I don't know who this is by. Something Touch. It's a 12-0, and I know I got it probably at Hobby Lobby. I'm just going to go and knock some of that off. Just knock a little of that powder right off of there. Okay, and then we're just going to heat set that. Get my power button. There we go. And then you can see that we've got the gold on the colors on the antenna, and then we have those pinks in the middle. Okay. And I'm just going to go and do that where I had it held. You can either clip it off or you can put ink on it. And I'm just going to hit it with my embossing pen just so some powder will stick. And I'm just going to heat that. How cool is that? So you can make your own custom embellishments for your cards and dress those up in so many different colors, guys. So many different colors. And you can do one solid color if you want. But these speckles, and they have another one called Confetti, 101 Dalmatians. The confettis come in trios, all sorts of different ones, but they're made by Ranger, I believe, and Wow. Wow Powders has some too. Right, Marianne? These are so much fun. They really are. Let's do a little bit different color here. Let me put this pink away. Let's do a blue. Or a mint. Ooh, I love this mint chip color. I'm just shaking this up to get all my speckles distributed. How pretty is that? So we're going to take a flower and we're going to do that same process, guys. And again, you can do this on white or craft cardstock. I like the craft for this, but that's just me. And I'm just going to grab that flower like right in between a petal. So I've got it all inked up. And I'm going to move my gold over here out of my way. And we're going to cover this up with the mint. Oh, missed the spot. How pretty is that? But this is a way to add texture to your cards, guys, without a lot of bulk. And let's just add some gold to it. I'm just going to take this while it's still on my tweezers. Just depends on your image. And I'm just going to hit the edges of each one of my petals. Into the powder. There we go. And then I'm just going to bring this gold in. I've got plenty on here, I think, that I can play with. Just to kind of punch it up. And I just went on the edges of each of my petals. And for me, I think that's a little heavy, so again, I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to brush some of this back to the edges. And then we're just going to heat it. And then you can give them those little petals. If you want to take your time and brush in there, you can brush in some strokes. You can even, while it's warm, pull some of these colors together with a pick while it's warm. You can reheat it and pull that up, pull some of the gold into the middle. Tons of things you can do with these. All right, Debbie, we'll see you later. So does anybody have any questions about layering up your embossing powders? You can even go in and add more colors to these if you want. I just did 2, but yeah, you can go in and add some silver and some reds and things like that to any of these. No 2 are ever going to be alike. I had another one. There it is. Go in and add the black in the center. Tons of things you can do. This one was done in the purple. or lavender, I think it's called. Yes, lavender. Yeah, it just punches up your embossing, because the heat embossing, guys, that's what one of the techniques I want to show you is not just for your words on your card or your sentiment. You can use it for your embellishments, for your card panels, just all sorts of things. And you can see how this one curled up. While it's warm, you can take it, put the heat gun to it, put it in a book, and it's going to lay flat. You can see this one's totally flat. But if they're curling up or anything like that on you, you can just flatten them back out. Just a little bit of heat, place it, and after it cools, put it in a book, and it will stay flat. If you don't have a heat gun, Shirley, you can, but be aware that hair dryers, it's like this heat gun. This heat gun I use a lot for embossing like this, and I use it for my epoxy cups. I have another small Ranger one that I actually love for my heat embossing because it doesn't blow your powders around. That's the difference with your heat embossing guns, your heat guns, and your hair dryers. Some of them blow air with a force, and it's going to blow the powders right off of your card. But if you've got like a hot plate or a griddle, your cardstocks will roll up like this on a griddle if it's too warm, but you can set it at maybe 125 and get there and let it melt that way. Or you can do the griddle technique, and I will have a video coming out for the griddle technique for you guys. I did cover it at the beginning of the video on how to do that. You can use your hair dryer, but you'll want to heat it from below first. So you're going to take your card and your embossing, and you're going to heat it from this back side and get that embossing powder to powder into one of yours. Like this one is not a mix. Don't put it back in your jar because it will contaminate your jar of mix. Now you can do what I call a dirty mix. You can save those that where you do and put them all in one little container if you have an empty container, and mix it and do your own mix. You never know what you're going to come up with. You might have something that you really truly love. So we've covered stamping into it. We covered just using a rubber stamp without any color and giving an impression, which you can do with embossing folders and rubber stamps. They both work the same way. We've layered them up. And then we've also done the textured panels. So you guys have lots of techniques that you can use for your cards and give that little bit of extra punch. I think you can see some of that gold I splattered in that all over. But these are going to be gorgeous when you take and you start adding your sentiments and your flowers to them. I have another small flower somewhere. Now I personally, with all of this going on, wouldn't do an embossed, but that's just one that I had that I was playing around with to see if I could do it on textured cardstock. So I mean, you're going to get really pretty results, and you can add a sentiment, whatever, to those. Maybe you only want to use one flower and a sentiment, but tons of things you can do. I really like that. How pretty is that? Lots of texture going on, lots of pretty. And you can get, I have a link down below, Shirley, where you can get, it's a good heat embossing gun from Close to My Heart. This is my little Heat It craft tool from Close to My Heart. And I will let you hear the difference in that one. Let me plug that in. These are so quiet. so quiet. This is my favorite. I take this with me when I go on crafts. Yes it does. It fits in Totally Tiffany too, without the ring. This is what this ring is for on the Totally Tiffany. Okay? And that's because this one falls through all the way down to here, and I don't have enough room to heat. When I'm heating, there's not enough room. So you have to use the adapter with some. There we go. The Ranger fits in there perfect. You guys want to see that? Fits in the Totally Tiffany perfectly. And this one is from close to my heart. Yeah, a lot of people do need the quiet because they craft late at night, things like that, and that's what I love about this one. So, and it fits, like I said, it fits in the Totally Tiffany embossing station perfectly. Hope I'm in camera there. But these are techniques that you guys can use, and you don't have to worry about using your embossing buddy and all that like you do with sentiments and things. Yeah, Pat, you just put them in a book and they'll be fine. All right, does anybody have any other questions? This is wrapping up the embossing, other than me showing you guys on a recorded tutorial how to use your griddle to make mixed media embellishments with your embossing powder. And I will do that video next week sometime and just pop it in. There won't be a file or anything with that. All right, guys. If you have any questions or anything that I forgot to mention, just let me know or ask me in the group, and we can get. Can't wait. Yeah, I dug all mine out too. I had some really old ones that I dug out, and I've been playing. I have been playing. Oh, you're very welcome, Pat. You guys play with these things. I mean, because these techniques do use a little bit more powder than your sentiments and stuff do, but use your powders. You can do so many things with them. Get so many more different looks and bump up that card making. Thank you to all of my supporters. Thank you to my moderators. Wednesday morning, the file for the onesie box. And we are calling this For the Onesies You Love. That is the name of this file. And you can color coordinate all of these. They will hold up to, this is a 6 to 12 month, and then I have a 12 to 18 month onesie in this one. So you guys look for that file on Wednesday morning. I will not be here, but it will automatically release for you guys. And if you have any questions on the file or anything, you can shoot me a message and I will get it to you as quickly as I can. I'm reading. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do two things at one time. Reading and working. All right, guys. You have a great one. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate all you guys.